Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Freedom Filled Life podcast. I am your co-host Shay, and with me is on the other side of the mic is Cassie. We are excited to be chatting with you today about something that we talk about a lot with our clients inside of Scale with Purpose Mastermind. It's one of the first things that we actually typically evaluate in terms of opportunities within their pricing and within their offer letter and their services. And that is how to raise your rates and how to raise your rates without feeling like you're going to lose clients, without actually losing clients. And we're going to talk about our methods and our strategies for feeling more confident in charging more and kind of how to go about doing it. How do we charge more for new clients, but also how do we move our current clients up in terms of charging more and raising our rates with our current clients? So that's what we're going to talk about today. So I'm going to hand it over to Cass to get us started, and let's get into it.
Yes, let's get into it. I know you said that this is something that a lot of our clients come to us with when they're first starting inside of our Scale with Purpose mastermind. And I think it makes a lot of sense that we tackle this as well, because I think as business owners, pricing is usually just like, it's an easy in. It's an easy one to just like, let's tackle this. Let's make sure that it's making sense, especially if like the offers or the packages themselves make sense. But it's just like, there's something that's not quite feeling right or fitting when it comes to pricing. And so that's usually something that we tackle first. One caveat I do want to make about this conversation and raising rates that we're going to dive into is that, the advice and the strategies that we're going to talk about in this episode are really specific for services, for service-based online business owners. And we're talking about like a service or a package, like branding, website design, PR, virtual assistant, OBM, book coaching, book editing. Our clients are doing such awesome things. There's a wide range of services, but this is focused on one-on-one, done for you services. So this is not advice that we would give for raising rates on things like memberships or online courses or digital products or programs, masterminds. Those are different types of offers in your product ladder. And so I just want to make that caveat in case you are someone who has a membership or a course or a program and you're trying to apply this to that. Make sure that you are, applying what we're going to talk about in this episode very specifically to the done for you services inside of your business. And I'm curious from your perspective, Shay, why do you think that so many of the clients that we work with, or even just service-based online business owners in general, struggle with raising their rates as a whole?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that when we first get started, we usually are kind of priced strategically in the market. So typically when you get started, for those listening who have started in a business, you're probably looking, what are other people charging? Okay, I'm going to start out on the lower end or give, new client discounts or, start and use pricing sort of as your differentiating factor. And then I think because a lot of our clients with service-based business have recurring revenue, so you work with clients on a long-term basis and you are too scared to raise that rate because you're scared of losing that. So I think it's a lot around fear around that. And then the other side, I think it's not having confidence in your sales ability. So feeling like, well, I've been charging this amount for this service. So if I raise the rate, but I don't add any extra to it, how is the value the same there? And I think it's because we forget to look at our past experience, to look at the results you are getting clients. And these are some of the things that we'll talk about. But I think that's really where it comes from, is that we're comfortable. We have these clients. We're scared we're going to lose them if we raise our rates. And the second side of that is you've never sold or pitched. It feels unknown. It feels scary. It feels, I would say, also imposter syndrome creeps up in there. Like, am I really good enough to charge this amount? You start comparing yourself and you kind of talk yourself out of doing it. So those are kind of three areas that people come to us, whether I'm doing strategy calls with them, coaching calls with them. It's very common that those are the three things that I'm hearing when it comes to me kind of pushing like, hey, let's look at raising your rates.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I like that you mentioned this perspective of like, well, I should add more if I increase my pricing, because I think that ends up becoming a mistake because you kind of fall back into that same place. It's like, well, if you're executing more, then well, it would make sense that you are already charging pricing, but you would wanted to raise your rates on the packages and deliverables that you already had. So if you can speak to like this mistake in general and maybe provide for anyone listening like some solutions to how we can not just add more to increase our prices.
Yeah, for sure. So I think when we're looking at increasing our rates, it's typically after we have, like going back to saying, gaining experience. So I think that sometimes we undervalue that. And I think some of the things that are an easy, let's say, add without really adding too much to your plate is to start thinking about the conversations that you're having with your clients on calls. Like you now, after being a year in business, doing your thing, you have strategy, you have insights, knowledge, expertise in your area that you could, if you feel inclined that you're feeling like, I want this to be a little bit more of a value add when I increase my rates, think about adding in strategy calls as something that you can sort of feel it's not this huge lift. It's going to be maybe a couple extra hours a month doing more of like a strategy call or adding in and thinking about how can we like package up the knowledge that you have and include that. The second
Mm.
thing is if we're not adding anything at all, look at the results that you've gotten your past clients. People are paying for the value of your work and the values of what you are getting them results wise. So try and remove it from this list of deliverables, this hourly rate kind of mentality, this like task-based mentality, and think about how can you look at your current clients and create case studies around the results that you've achieved for them? Why do these people still work with you? I'm sure it's not because you are checking off a task list. It is because you are providing some form of value. Now you need to uncover what that is. Is it a specific quantitative metric or is it qualitative? What are clients saying to you? How are you measuring your results? And look at that. That in itself is reflective of your experience again and of the results you can get. So your prices should reflect the value that you're bringing. So in that scenario, I highly encourage you not to add a bunch more tasks and look at it from that perspective. So that's definitely an area that I like to take our clients down at the path as well.
Those are such good points. I really like that you talk about, the added value, which by this point, if you have been in business for, multiple years now, and so maybe your pricing is still from when you just started, or maybe it's just a little bit higher than, a couple years ago, you have slowly tried to increase it. But you've been scared too, because the reason that have been successful in your business in the first place is that you've been able to sell at this price point. So I understand where the fear can kind of come in of like, well, if I change it, what if I just don't start landing clients? But I love that you mentioned the added value that you have now, that you should have now with more years of experience in your business. You also should think about all of the increased knowledge that you have now in this niche or in this industry that you now serve in. And that was likely something that you did not have when you first started your business. You have a skill set and you are filling a need. But usually, when we see women first launching their business, it is very much like, here is a client paying you for this skill because they don't know this skill. Even if you have a niche, we haven't really served clients deeply within that niche yet to fully understand the depth of their needs and just like understanding the intricacies of a certain industry. I think about one of our clients who does branding and website design for therapists. And when she was just starting out, she didn't really have this niche. Yes, she had worked with some yoga studios, some therapists, some holistic healers, but until we really started niching her down into working solely with therapists, we did a deep dive with her to understand what are the needs of therapists or people who are running therapy clinics or group clinics. What is different when it comes to branding and website design for these people, for this niche versus, any brand and website designer creating a package. And out of that conversation, she had so many ideas. Like, well, they need a HIPAA approved, in booking and integration system in connected to their website, or they need, SEO that's focused on these types of keywords that are really important for therapists, or they need a unique approach to copywriting because they don't want to be leaning into people's traumas or fears. They really want to have this more holistic approach to their copywriting. And so when you really start to uncover and dive deep into what is this added knowledge and expertise that you have gained in a specific industry,
Mm.
and I would say more specifically in a niche, that adds so much value to what you bring to the table in your business. And I think that makes the increased price point that much more valuable, because now you're not just getting a brand and website designer, you are getting the brand and website designer in this example for scaling a group therapy clinic in a specific location, and that makes it be like, okay, I'm okay with the increased cost if I'm comparing, let's say I was the client, if I'm comparing this brand and web design agency to another brand and website agency, maybe that's not specified in this niche, the increased cost becomes just so much more attainable and valuable because you know that you're getting more than just, a 5-page site or 7-page site or the list of deliverables that you typically see in packages. So I love that you brought that up, because I do think that it can be difficult to see when you're so in your business. And so you really want to sit with this and identify, what is this for you in your niche, in your area of expertise, especially if you've been in business for multiple years. You need to sit down and evaluate what has been the increased knowledge that you've gained that you are now already bringing to clients. And I think that makes the price a lot more justified.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that's where we're not changing your packages. We are basically editing them to be more specific to probably what you are doing for your niche. And then again, bringing it back to that's the valuable part of it. That is why someone is hiring you, because I did the exact same thing. It's another brand and website design example, but I did the exact same thing with my OBM and brand and website design business for online coaches when I was designing their sites, and then also, and I had my recurring revenue of managing their funnels and their client experience after the fact. I completely adjusted and re-upped my prices for my services, being I started to detail and list out the specific funnels I was creating for them because I knew they needed them as an online coach, the specific client onboarding that they needed as online coaches, the specific, like you were saying, the policies or terms and conditions or types of contracts or whatnot. I was already doing these things for my clients. So think about that too. It's not trying to reinvent or add new things that you don't know how to do. It's what you're already doing, and then structuring it with language that now is so much more speaking to your niche that they're going to choose you because it's specific for them and their needs, and you've made it specific as well.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of like how you can go from being a generalist to a specialist. I
Ooh.
think there's a lot of analogies just in everyday life, like doctors, dentists. Like once you get away from generalization and you get into needing a specific specialist, somebody who's studied their whole life in this particular area, you have a really specific need, the increased price makes a lot of sense because you're getting somebody who has more specialized knowledge and expertise. So I love too that you are mentioning the case studies as well, because I think that's something from the marketing side that I often see when we have clients that want to increase prices, really want to scale, have sort of been teetering on this like niche. We typically see that these clients also are still using pretty basic testimonials from when they first started their business. And I know that testimonials probably fall to the bottom of your list. You have so many other things that you're doing as you're working with clients and trying to scale your business. And you're like, you know what? It's fine. A 3-sentence testimonial isn't something that you're really spending too much time analyzing, or you're like, oh my gosh, this could be so much better. But typically, when we see these basic testimonials, they are very common. And like I said, going back to the concept of being a generalist, these testimonials are like, I highly recommend working with this person. She was so great. You should work with her. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I'm happy, of course, if we receive testimonials like that. And at least that was able to get you going when you first started your business. But when we're getting into specialization and we're talking about being able to scale and raise your rates and just enter this new level of your business that you want to unlock, you really need to move away from having clients providing you with very basic testimonials, and you want to move into more detailed case studies. This can be different depending on the different, just the services that you offer or the types of clients you work with. One of the ways that we really like to structure it is just using your blog as a way to have a more robust case study that you can link to and showcase more deeply this client project or a current client that you're working with, and show the steps, give the knowledge, give some of your expertise. Like, why did they come to start working with you? What were their pain points? And then what was the roadmap you provided? And what was the solution to that? And then, of course, like you talked about, Shay, we obviously always want to see results. And if you are a branded website designer, to continue on that example, this could be very visual, but also remember some of those behind the scenes things that maybe aren't as visual, but they are the reason why you make certain choices. If you work with a client in a specific niche, let's say that is, luxury, talk about why and how you design a brand that fits in the luxury space. Or if you work with clients in a different type of industry, talk about what goes through your head when you're starting to work with them, as you're creating this deliverable for them. You want to really show your expertise. And then when it comes to actually getting testimonials, we always like to send our clients a more detailed Google form and just articulate to them how important having a really detailed testimonial is for other clients like them. They were in their shoes as well, who were also interested but not sure. They were on the fence. And then in that Google Doc, we give prompts to the testimonial. Like, can you share the results that you achieved? Can you share the feelings that you had? How did you feel before working with us? And then how did you feel after working with us? What have been some of the tangible results and benefit that you've seen in your business after working with us? And you can even give some examples. And I find that for us, and even for most of our clients, like, they want to give good testimonials. The clients typically want to give good testimonials if they've loved working with you. They just, A, are maybe strapped on time, and B, they don't really know what to say, right? So we just need to help guide them so that they can say something better than, she was great, loved working with her. We want to see testimonials that are using the exact words and terminology and keywords that a potential client and customer who is interested in working with her is probably thinking in their head. So it's like, oh, before I, started working with this brand and website agency, I was scared that I wasn't going to find a brand and website designer who could really convey the ethos and the healing journey that I want to take my clients on. Or I was just so worried that to trust someone in this process because I've been burned before. And, also I had previously worked with someone who just like wasn't able to visually understand my needs, right? Like these are just on the fly examples, but you can understand how we're getting deeper into the psychology or to the real issues, pain points, thoughts that a potential client is thinking and concerns that they have. And we want your testimonials to be front and center on your website, and we want them to showcase and be really focused on these unique things, going back to the specialization and moving again away from having generalized testimonials. And from the marketing side, I think is a big piece of being able to have your marketing also work for you as you're leveling up and increasing your prices. Hey there, it's Cassie popping in with something we haven't shared publicly before, but I wanted to give you the inside scoop. If you've been thinking about working with us inside of our Scale with Purpose Mastermind program, but you missed enrollment last year, then this is for you. We've had women on our waitlist reaching out saying, I'm ready to scale now, and I don't want to wait for the next round of the program. So for the first time ever, we've created a private 3-month version of our Scale with Purpose Mastermind program designed for just 5 women who are serious about hitting their big revenue goals in 2025 using our Scale with Purpose framework. Now, we kicked this off quietly behind the scenes, and now there's only 1 spot left before we start at the end of the month. You can snag our very last spot for 3 monthly payments of $1,300, or you can pay in full for $3,997. Now, if you're feeling the nudge that this is your next step, let's chat and see if it's the right fit. You can book a free discovery call with Shay using the link in our show notes. All right, let's get back to our conversation. Okay, Shay, speaking of raising rates, let's talk about how to do it, because I think everyone's like, yes, this sounds great. Lots of tangible examples around the topic. What signs do you look for when clients are thinking it's time to raise their rate? How do you know it's the right time? Because this is a question that we get too. Like, I'm not sure if it's the right time to raise my rate. How do I know if I should do that? Should I wait? So what are these signs that we should be looking for?
Yeah, I think there's a couple different things that we look for. Well, the first and easiest one is, when was the last time you raised them? And going back to, if it's been more than a year, like you have results and value and experience from that past year, let's evaluate. Okay. So it doesn't mean necessarily that every year you're raising your rates. I just mean that mostly, if you haven't raised your rates from when you first started, or maybe you raised just a little bit since you first started and you've been in business for more than a year, I like to kind of look at it at your now experience and value. Then, so that could be an evaluation checkpoint for you. The other one is, if you are getting an influx of leads and you do not have the capacity to take on those leads, great problem to have. If you have this problem, then it's supply and demand in the business world. You are in high demand and you need to raise your rates to be able to serve those clients. You are in demand, which means to be able to work with those clients, not about taking on more clients. That's a very easy checkpoint to say, oh, I'm in high demand, which means I'm doing something right, which means I am able to raise my rates. Because when you raise your rates, then less people are able to work with you. So you want to find that sweet spot between like the number of leads that you're getting and the volume of clients you're taking and the revenue that you're generating. So a high volume of leads and you're not able to take them, that means we can raise our rates, because that will weed out some of those people. Or you look at building an agency to take on more people. So there is that too. And we talked about revenue growth on the last episode, that you can tune into that one as well. And then another one would be, when you have your own financial revenue goals, are you hitting them? If you are fully booked and you are not hitting your revenue goals, then it's a time to evaluate, well, where are there areas of opportunity? And then, of course, you go into what we just talked about, evaluating your services. If you are not hitting your revenue goals and you are fully booked, that's a disconnect, because you don't allow your business to just dictate what you make. You decide what you want to make, and then you figure out how to go after that. So that could be looking at adding on different higher price point services, raising your current rates, figuring out lead and marketing funnels that are then going to attract those clients that are going to pay those rates or for these new services. So that's one way to start thinking about increasing your prices. And then the last one I would say is something that is not tangible. It's not metrics focused. It's a gut feeling. It's an intuition. And I know that there are women out there that this is how we run our businesses, make decisions, or if you're recognizing, for those who maybe don't feel as connected to intuition, if you're feeling that there's a little bit of resentment, like you're getting clients, but at the rates that you're charging, but you're kind of like, I don't want to deliver this service, or you're feeling undervalued by the client. Sometimes it's not the client that is undervaluing you. It is that you are feeling undervalued because you haven't actually accepted all of the amazing experience and value, and everything that you bring to the table is no longer in alignment with your pricing. So it could simply come down to a gut feeling. I have clients come to me saying, I want to raise my rates. I don't know why. It just feels like the right time, but I don't know how. And I'm scared around how to do it. And then we talk about how to do it. But it could just be a gut feeling that is saying to you, okay, I'm ready for more. I am like my value is there, but you're just like, it's more of an intuition versus like something that you sat down and evaluated.
Love it. That's so helpful. Okay, everybody who's listening, we're going to get into the how. I want to get into the how while we're still in the meat of this conversation, because I know that's continuing to be the big question. How can you confidently raise your rates without losing clients? So step one, Shay, the one that we always like to start with, is auditing your pricing structure. Like, how much should your new rates be? So how do you go about figuring out, we know that, let's say we know that we want to move away from our current pricing. Great. Somebody's ready to level up, increase prices. They hit check on the 3 reasons that we just gave of knowing that they're ready. How do you then figure out what that new price point should be?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's get into the how. So the first place that I like to start with clients is in market research. Who is your target audience and what are they looking for? And within a target audience, there's typically, you're going to have your budget conscious, you're going to have your kind of mid-ticket ones that have a mid-sized budget, I should say, and then you have your high-ticket ones. So that's usually also how your offer suite can also play along. And if you wanted to offer multiple different versions and offers for different type of clients. But when we do some market research, we get into your niche, we look at what is the market charging as well. Let's see where you're placed in the market with other people who are doing the type of services that you have, ideally for your niche as well. But let's just even see where you're priced within the market for just, let's say, brand and website design, PR, podcast management, social media management. Like, let's just get into it. And then I want to see where are we coming in? And then we look at the types of clients that we are attracting. Are they the low budget clients, or is it clients that they're like, actually, I've been adding on service. I have a client who offers podcast management, and her clients just keep asking her for more. So I'm like, okay, well, why don't we create a signature offer and then go after the client that wants more? That's a type of client in itself. So we are raising her rates in alignment with what her clients are technically asking her for. She's just been kind of adding it on. So instead, we're sort of going back to the drawing board and saying, well, your signature offer actually isn't offering enough. Yes, maybe you've taken on a couple smaller budget clients, but you are able to, if you started with your signature offer, offering all these extra things in it, and you pitched it to that client that has the budgets, that client tier, great, that's your entry level. Now you've raised your rates and maybe we get rid of that smaller offer just because it's not selling right now. So that's something that you can look at too, is what are your clients been asking you for? Is there things that you are adding on? That in itself could be simply just a restructuring of your services, and then we restructure the price around that. Or you look at where you are in the market and then you're like, oh, I am like, based on your level of experience, we go back to experience, value, all of that. I am way undercharging compared to where other people are. And this is something I commonly see with our clients. Again, it comes back to feeling of that imposter syndrome or not having the confidence. And like, we've all been there. So you are not doing anything wrong. It's just more data gathering. So we look at and we say, oh, wow, like we're undercharging, but we have more experience, or our testimonials are stronger, or we have more in our service offering. And then that's when we can kind of evaluate, oh, okay, well, maybe I can just simply raise my rates, feel confident in that, and start pitching my new leads with those rates, because I am technically, in comparison to the market, significantly undercharging for what I bring to the table. So there's that as well when we're kind of looking in terms of market research. So we start there, right? And usually that's typically where we are able to see the low-hanging fruit. I would say for those of you who haven't raised your rate since you got started, we're mostly going to be looking at that. What are your client needs are? What's the market? And then again, you could go intuitively as well. Like, what would feel good to you to charge for this service? When we're tapping more into that intuition and that knowing, well, look, what price point would make you feel good and valued. And it's probably because you know that you're more experienced, like I said in the last point that we were talking about. And so if we pick a number intuitively, then how do we feel about pitching this? If you feel you want to double your prices, that feels good to you, and you feel like so confident on that you could pitch that to a new client on a sales call. Because I have clients like that. I'm not saying everybody has imposter syndrome. If you are an intuitive business decision maker, do not let that stop you. Do not let the market research stop you if you feel like it's telling you a different thing. For those more intuitive thinkers or gut feelings, or like, I do things because it feels right. I know there's women like that who make decisions. And if you can align with that price point and you can align your sale like confidence with that price point, pitch it to the next sales call that you have. And don't worry about the research on that one. Okay. And then some other more tangible, let's go back to, because I'm a more tactical, tangible person. Let's go back to what the revenue goals that you want to make. So if you could work backwards from your revenue goals that you want to make, how many clients if you have recurring or even one-time projects in an annual basis, how many clients do you need on your current packages? And then you say, well, my capacity, I can't take on that many clients. Let's say it's 10 clients a month and you don't have the capacity to take on 10 clients. Okay. What if we upped your prices by $100 or $200? Now, how many clients? Okay, it's 8 clients to reach my goals. But let's say our capacity is 5 clients. So now I want to find that metric number where you can reach your revenue goals, you have your capacity, and now the numbers have told us what that pricing is to be able to execute that. Great. Now we look at that number and we go and we say, do we feel confident? Do we feel comfortable? That's when marketing comes into play, where we go back to, let's get some solid results around that so we can charge that number. Let's edit the messaging or what's in the package. Or like I said before, maybe we need a new type of package, that next level in your offer suite that does have the value add that can align and you feel comfortable and confident selling that package. That's a really key thing, is you have to feel confident. And going back to that instinct of alignment and feeling good around it, you have to feel good about your pricing to be able to sell it, or else it's going to come across scratchy on those calls. So I do want to kind of find that balance. So let's find a value add that makes you feel good about this price point. Or like I said, you go and you tap into your knowledge, your expertise, your experience, and you tap into the confidence mindset of owning what you did. Do not feel like you have to continue to add value. I really want you to look and see what clients are saying about you, to see the results that you're getting so that you can just simply raise your prices. So then you can reach your revenue goals. When we work backwards like that, we just find our point of how many clients do we need? What would that pricing look like? And then we can work up to that pricing.
I love that you were talking about the confidence side of it and how that can also help you sort of decide where you feel comfortable on your pricing and rates. I was thinking about a client that we currently have. She was significantly undercharging. And even though she knew, going back to your gut level, resentment, she knew that she should be charging more. And she knew that she was doing a lot for the price that she was offering to clients. And also in her scenario, clients were kind of asking her that, like telling her, like, I think you should be charging more. And obviously for everyone, that is like a very, very, very big green light that we should evaluate our prices. So I know that doesn't happen for everyone, but still, she was really lacking confidence in raising her rates, even though this was the case, even though all these signs were there. And so what we did with her is that we created a scaling plan for increasing her prices. And we just told her, okay, just pitch the next potential client at a bit of an increased rate. And of course, we helped her define what that increased rate was going to be. We talked about coaching her through that conversation and how she was going to have this sales conversation with a new discovery call. And lo and behold, she booked that client at the slightly increased rate. She was shocked. She was so excited. The client didn't have any pushback to the increased rate. And she actually came to us, Shay, and she was like, okay, I'm increasing it even more. And on my next client call, like, I'm going to see how that goes. And so And she landed that one too, just to speak to that. And so, we did it very incrementally in that case. Like she did have sort of a goal in mind of where she wanted to be. And I think we needed to hit these smaller checkpoints in order to get her to the rate that she wants to be, which is where she is now. So I think that's a really interesting scenario. We also have another client along the same lines whose potential clients were surprised at how inexpensive her packages were. And that's another really good indicator. If you are on discovery calls with a potential client and they're like, all right, how much is it going to cost me? What are the prices? What are the rates? And you give it to them with this client we were working with, she said that the businessman she was speaking with was so surprised. He was like, oh, that's it? He was like, all right, well, that's great. Let's do it. Like, let's get signed up. And she came to our next coaching call and she was like, okay, I know you guys have been talking to me about my prices and really talking about how we should increase them. I actually had the perfect scenario happen today. And I think I'm ready. I think it's time. And so that's a really good indicator that, there is probably a market, or like you were saying, Shay, a different tier of a client that we haven't fully tapped into yet, right? When we look at our packages, like you were saying, Shay, the low ticket, mid ticket, high ticket, usually that's how people create their offers. And it's very common because that is typically the client journey, right? We have people that are newer in business, whatever the business is, and then people who are further down the line who need to grow. And then we have people at their highest tier who are really looking to scale. They probably definitely know investment value and are willing to pay higher prices. Of course, they have higher expectations. Maybe they're a bit more needy. There is this higher tier. And so with a couple clients that we've worked with, we actually realized that there was an opportunity that they hadn't created a package for this highest tier client. Every now and then they were pitching a client like this and they were landing it because they were adding on things, right? So it's like you have more of an entry level service that's priced a lot lower. We're talking about pricing here today. So it's an easy yes that clients are like, oh yeah, great. But I also need this and this and this, right? So you're adding it on. And of course, they were able to, in general, as a whole, charge more. But we realized like we could just have a package that is specifically made for this higher tier client, and we can pitch them this. We can pitch them this highest price point package. And also when you go back to the numbers, Shay, which I know is so helpful when you're helping our clients create their CEO dashboard sheets and just looking at the profitability of each of their offers, we actually realized that by only landing a couple of clients in the highest tier, sometimes we were making even more than having a higher volume of clients in a lower tier package. So I think it's just another way that you can look at how you can increase your prices as a whole when you're looking at your product ladder as well. And you might actually be needing to tap into this different client that maybe you've kind of had in your peripherals. They come to you every now and then. We've had a client who was like, oh, I don't get a ton of people that are at this highest tier. And we were like, well, it kind of makes sense because you're not really marketing to them. You don't have a package for them. And so it might be that we're just not attracting them. It doesn't hurt by having a package on there. And now it's been amazing. She's been able to actually attract clients and market to clients because she has this specific package, and she's landed significantly more clients in this higher tier where before it was just a handful a year. Okay, on to step 2, Shay. Let's talk about how to transition existing clients, because I also think this is where we see our current clients have this fear come in because you've built this relationship with current clients, you've established trust with them, and just the idea of asking them for more money just kind of feels like out of alignment for some of the women in our programs. But they know that they want to increase their rates. They know they want to transition them. So how do you actually go about communicating pricing increases with current clients, and when should you do this?
Yeah, I think this is like one of the biggest things people have fear around because it's a fear of losing a client. And I would say that if we've gotten really clear on our pricing, if we're changing offers, if we're adding offers, we feel so confident around that I want you to know that you it's okay if we lose a client. Now, we can talk about keeping legacy clients. We can, and I'm going to speak to that. But I want you to be comfortable with losing a client potentially. Now, it's rare. I don't see this. And I'm going to tell you the why, because we have a plan. Like, it's not, I don't see this happen that often. I don't have clients that raise their rates and they lose all their clients. Okay. So I just want to preface that. I'm going to tell you how to keep your clients. But let's get comfortable with the fact that we want to attract a new client at our new prices or our new offers. All right. But we have these amazing clients that we're working with, and you are providing amazing results for them. You've also created a relationship with them. They don't want to go find someone else, and you don't want to probably go find new clients. You want to continue working with them. So we want to be really respectful of the relationship that we've built with them. And so what I like to help my clients with is implementing what I do, a scaling plan. So what we do is we communicate. Once we are really solid on our new pricing, typically we've landed maybe 1 or 2 clients at this new pricing, because that's going to give you that comfortability, that confidence that this is your new pricing. Then we share with clients, hey, I've raised my rates. I am taking on new clients at this new rate. So I wanted to discuss with you what that would look like for your account and for staying on with me as a client. And then what you want to do, I like doing it on a face-to-face call and showing them, based off of the results, like the things that you do for them, the, time that they've maybe been with you on this pricing, like these people that you're speaking with, because they're typically business owners themselves. Like, they get it. You're not speaking to someone who's not going to understand why you need to raise your rates. They've probably also gone through that too. So just remove that off the table, that like you're speaking to someone who understands business. Most likely they are running their own version of a business or their version of like in their profession. So we are speaking to them. We are not speaking down to them. We are speaking to them, showcasing what you've been able to achieve for them. And then you say, because we've worked together for so long, I'm not going to, next month, we're not going to immediately jump onto this package, but I wanted to explain to you that a price increase is coming. And then what I typically do is, depending on your comfort level, you can start increasing the prices within 30 days. Sometimes clients like to wait 60 days to start increasing the pricing. And again, typically I don't say just go from, let's say we were taking someone from $900 packages to $1,400 packages. What we do in that scenario is we scale them up. These are for recurring client packages. So what we say is, okay, in 30 or 60 days, your price point is going to go up by $200 every month until it hits this new pricing. So some clients take 6 months for you to get them up to that. And that's like so much more comfortable from the client perspective. They can start to plan, they can start to budget. So that's what I like to recommend. And again, when it comes to timing, like I said, I usually like to have brought on or pitched or sold a new client at my new pricing before I approach current clients, because we need to make sure that that value alignment's there, your sales are aligned, you're getting leads in so that you can confidently, we're not lying, we're confidently telling our clients, I now am charging this amount for this service. So now we are going to scale you up to that over a period of time. That's where that kind of strategy and logic comes into play. And then to speak to what we call legacy client pricing, I know that many of us feel so called to the type of clients that we work with. Maybe we started out with clients with a smaller budget, or there's some clients that we just love to work with. Like, this is what my clients have told me. They just are like, I love working with her or him. I know that they don't have the budget. Maybe you have a conversation and they say they don't have the budget too, or you just know. For those listening, you're like, I don't want to raise for these particular clients. Now, we don't have to raise their rates. We can keep them on what we'll call legacy pricing clients. Now, just remember, the more legacy pricing clients you have, the less capacity or time you have for the new clients at the new pricing. So I don't want to see you keeping 100% of your clients on legacy pricing, because you probably don't have the capacity to take on new clients. So what was the point of raising our rates? So we just got to remember that your capacity or your team, and if you have an agency structure, you or your team's time or capacity when keeping on legacy clients is really important to evaluate. It works easier if you do have a team and you can basically outsource to your team and make sure your team costs are there and keep on your legacy clients on a specific pricing. For anybody who wants to keep on current clients, what we do is we communicate and we tell those clients that we are now offering our services at these new rates. And you say, hey, but I'm not going to raise your rates and then let's put a timeline on it. Let's say a year, or if you want lifetime, that's fine. But usually legacy, it's like a year. That's a really like a whole nother year working together at those current rates is, I think, a very, very generous timeline for current clients. Keep them on, but let them know, hey, I'm going to keep you on legacy pricing for however long you decide at this package, at this structure that we have. But I highly encourage you to really sit with and evaluate if you are going to keep on legacy pricing clients, because it really comes back to what financial goals do you have, making sure that you don't have that resentment now for this client on a lower tier pricing. And like, you increased your prices for a reason. And so we want to make sure that you have the capacity, or your team has the capacity and agency structure to take on new clients at the new rate if we are going to be dedicating a portion of our time and resources to legacy clients. So I do encourage you to try the scaling implementation plan with current clients and get them up to, over a period of time, get them up to the new pricing is my recommendation.
I'm glad you brought that up, the legacy clients, because I do think that's something that even you and I have experienced in our business. It's like, maybe at this current state in your business, your position is that you want to keep these clients at their current rate and just book new clients at the increased rates. And like you were saying, Shay, maybe even you're like, yes, I think I want to just make this lifetime. I would just encourage you to not put such hard boundaries and on yourself and on your business. And just like, I love that you mentioned, Shay, this will remain for the next year or even the next 2 years. I think sounds, okay. But this, like, always, like, you will always remain at this price. We usually don't see this in large corporations, which you guys are probably not surprised, or even mid-sized businesses, because it's a little cray-cray. Like, we don't know how the industry can change, how business can change, how you're going to change, how your business, like, there's just so much, right? So just don't put yourself in a corner where you've promised a handful of clients to always remain at this legacy pricing, because you don't know how your business might change. So I really like the idea of telling them that pricing will remain for the next year or 2 years, even still seems reasonable. And I think you also kind of debunked the myth that you need to do these blanket rate raises. I think that seems to be the idea when we have clients that come in to Scale with Purpose Mastermind. They want to raise rates, and usually the hesitations are because they think they need to do these blanket rate raises, and they don't even have any proof. Like you were saying, they haven't even pitched a new client and landed a new client at an increased rate. So of course it's going to feel scary. So I love that you debunked that and gave a strategy for how we can make tweaks in pricing with different types of clients and get ourselves to where we want to be financially to hit those revenue goals. Now, I have 2 questions from the audience, which is just me. But hopefully those of you who are listening, maybe you have this question too, because we have seen this happen with our clients. Like, can you raise your rates too often? I know we've had this with certain clients who are like, oh, I just raised my rates like 3 months ago, and now we're talking about raising my rates again. Is that too much? Or I just had a new client come on just last week, and I closed them on this rate. So can you kind of speak to raising your rates too often and how we can maintain this, like, a good relationship with clients, existing clients specifically, in this process as well?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think that for me, if we're raising our rates or we are on a call, we're pitching at a higher rate, yes, new lead coming in, your clients don't all need to be on the same pricing. It is the value that you have pitched and you have sold that, and that client is happy with, and you're delivering on that new client. Absolutely. Like the example we shared before with the client who started, a little bit smaller. She pitched at like a couple $100 more. Then the next one was a couple more than that. Like, For new clients, absolutely. For current clients, we do not just keep raising their rates. Think about it from the perspective of you. Do you want to every other month you've budgeted for something, or like you're just getting hit all the time, like, oh, this is going up, this is going up, this is going up every other month? No, we do not want our clients to feel that way. So if we have just raised our rates with current clients, I would say that depending on the type of services maybe that you have, for recurring services or project-based services, it would kind of like depend, because project-based, if you're getting new clients in all the time, then that's fine. It's just new client pricing. If we have recurring services with current clients, I would say once we've done one price increase, especially because we probably did a scaling up plan, once they're scaled up to that new pricing, give them breathing room. That's their budget. That's what they're planning for. What would you want? A year? I wouldn't say more than a year, but like a year feels very generous. Could be 6 months. I think that one really comes down to like, put yourself in their shoes, but definitely nothing shorter, for my opinion. I mean, I don't like making like definitely statements. So I would say that maybe not like definitely across the board, but I would say that from my perspective as a client, if I would not want to be pitched a new rate increase, anything on less than 6 months. So unless there was some significant change, like you got like significant results change month over month, and you're like, whoa, okay, I've tapped into this new strategy. And even then it's like the value that they're getting from you is just going to build the relationship if we can really maintain not always pitching them new rates. So I encourage you to be comfortable with having clients working with you at different rates because of maybe when they started working with you, what you pitched them, that kind of thing. And then when it's time to raise everybody, because at some point clients need to continue to be at the level, we don't have, again, legacy clients for lifetime, but I think a year is very generous. So typically I would say wait a year until you approach raising their rates to the next, whatever level you currently are selling clients at. But with new clients, absolutely. I mean, pitch a new upped price every time you get a new client. Again, you'll find it's sales confidence. So again, that alignment of like you feeling good about selling and delivering new clients, absolutely. Current clients, give them some breathing room, because from my perspective, I am budgeting. And as a client, I want to know that like that is going to, be my budget for that year. So I can plan for that as a business owner. So just think about it from perspective too, when it comes to how often you're raising rates.
Yeah. Well, I think you made a great point there because you talked about the contract. And so I do want to cover that. Like, what happens if you have a contract with a current client at a specific rate? And how does rate raising work from a contract perspective? Because I think some of the scenarios that we're giving, especially with new clients, obviously they're not on contract yet, but let's say that, I'm sure this is the case for many of you listening, you're like, well, I already have a contract. It says this price and it doesn't expire, the contract doesn't expire until 3 months from now or 4 months from now. So how does rate raising work in that scenario?
Yeah. And I mean, we've had so many clients in that scenario. So that is a great question I'm glad you brought that up, because it's something that I probably didn't explain when I was explaining the scaling plan for current clients. So I would actually say, if I could just like go back and add a caveat to the scaling plan, is you need to check your contracts. So and that's usually where we start, is if you are on something that is a 6-month contract, a 3-month contract, we usually have some endpoints. If you have something that's month to month with a client, then simply just check your clauses. You probably have the option to raise rates, because if you're on month to month, that just means it's renewing on a monthly basis. We don't typically see that. Usually you're probably on a 3-month, a 6-month, or a 12-month contract with a client. So typically what we do is 2 to 3 months before that contract is coming up for renewal. That's when I have the conversation, or that's when our clients have the conversation about the scaling plan. If we have month to month, you can give them that grace period of the 30, 60, 90 days before the scaling plans start. But typically you'll want to look at your contracts and make sure you're having a conversation within that 90-day window to say, okay, our contract is coming up for renewal. And then that's when you go through all the pitching of the value and the results. And then you present the scaling plan, which would start at the renewal of the next contract. And in the renewal of the next contract, you would outline this scaling up schedule so that they're signing on for that. And so that that is the new contract. And then once they reach, let's say after 3 to 4 months, you've scaled them up to your current new rate, that would be their steady monthly rate for the remainder of that contract term length that you have with them. So that is a great point, and something that you definitely will need to look at is your contract terms, and then making sure you have the new pricing or the new scaling structure in the terms of your new renewed contract with that client.
Okay, awesome. Well, as we wrap up the episode, I do want to let you guys know, if you're listening and you were taking notes, or you also want to have a little bit more guidance on how you can actually articulate this pricing increase to existing clients, then we have our pricing and positioning scripts for a multi-six-figure service-based online business. You can grab them totally for free. The link is inside of the show notes. And this is especially for you if you're raising your rates feels intimidating and you're just like, I don't really know what to say. This is something that we help a lot of our clients with when they're in a similar position, and just making sure that you feel really good about how you're articulating your rate raise with current clients or existing clients. So you're going to get that template if you download it. And then we will also walk you through how you can frame or reframe your value as you're pitching to, this can work for existing clients, but also for new clients, so that you feel like you are, or your business is the easy yes. How can you position your expertise, your results, like we talked about, the transformation that you're helping clients achieve, so they can more easily see their return on investment of working with you at the new rates. And the last thing in this free resource is we're also going to help you handle client pushback with grace, with some authority, and just give you some pre-written responses that we like to use for some very common objections that we see. If you have, clients, this could be existing or potential clients that are like, I can't really afford that right now, or I've been paying this amount, just curious why you're increasing it, really not sure I can justify the cost. All really common objections that can sometimes come up. We don't see it as frequently as you would think, but we want to make sure that you know how to confidently be able to handle these sales conversations. So again, link is in the show notes. It's totally free resource guide for you, and make sure you download that if you're ready to implement some of the strategies we talked about with rate raising in today's episode.
Yeah, amazing. Definitely get your hands on that. I think it's a really juicy resource. It goes so hand in hand with the conversation that we had today. What a great conversation. I feel like if those of you listening are implementing any of this advice, like, please message me on Instagram in the DMs. It's me in there, as I say at the end of every episode. Let me know what the results were. Let me know if you feel your confidence and how things are going with raising rates and all of that. Or if you have questions from the resource exercises or from this episode, you can pop them into Instagram as well. And then, of course, for those who I have been having conversations with, thank you so much for reaching out, and keep sharing with me what you want to hear on the podcast so we can create episodes and content that is for the areas of opportunity or the things or the problems or the areas in your business that you want help with. Share that with me on Instagram, and I'd be happy to craft some episodes around what you ladies want to hear. So again, thank you for taking the time, as always, to be with us here on this episode. And I can't wait to chat with you on Instagram if you so desire. Please leave us a review if you love this episode. Every review helps. I read all of them, and it helps us boost the podcast, get more amazing women listening, and into our world and into our community. So again, I really hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you in the next one.